Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Trombone First Aid. Today, as you can see, we are in a totally different venue, in a very special place in the heart of Roma. This is the IMART Academy of Arts, and I'm together with my dear colleague and good friend Giuliano Sommerhalder.
Not a trombone player, unfortunately, but
he has not yet a microphone, so
but I have a slide.
But I have to thank him to have accepted to have this video together with me, because I got some requests about double and triple tonguing, and I thought that I know a very good virtuoso for trumpet, not for trombone, but still the technique is very similar. So I thought, who better than him could give you some good advices to improve your technique and maybe find new exercises to develop your double and triple tonguing. So now I leave the word to Giuliano. He will just try to follow the same ideas I had in my previous videos. And anyway, be free as you prefer. I just have to give him the microphone because the powerful means, technical means we have is only this one. So,
edit. Nice to meet you, Gabriele. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. I'm very honored. And I'm very excited to talk about one of my, let's say, favorite technical aspects of brass playing, which is fast stuff. No, you probably knew that, or maybe some of you may have suspected it. Double and triple tonguing are sometimes seen as some kind of a mysterious and sort of inachievable thing for those people who have not yet really taken care of solving certain aspects about it. It's also something that, especially in the brass and more specifically trumpet world, some players are very much admired about, just because they're able to do it usually at a very fast speed and coupled with very difficult lines or figures. The primary thing about double and triple for me is that it's no different than single tonguing. And about single tonguing, Gabriele has already had a wonderful chapter in his Trombone First Aid series, where what I liked a lot, he mentioned the fact that the primary goal about tonguing in general, be it simple, double or triple, is to not allow the sound quality to decrease beyond a point of acceptability. So our first aim is, how can I maintain my sound quality while having more tongue work involved at the moment. So of course speed is something relative. I can be the fastest brass player on the planet, but then I will talk to people like, for instance, Yuja Wang, and she can play things that are 10 times faster than my maximum speed. So for her, my maximum speed is probably slow, comparatively. So speed is something relative. And what does that mean? It means that I can do anything in slow motion and take care of it in slow motion and then speed it up to a speed which is acceptable for what I need it for. Which means, for instance, if we take pieces like Honegger, if we pieces like very famous for triple tonguing, the Urban Variations, among which Carnival of Venice, and many other things where we have triple tonguing required. Usually it's variations from the end of the 19th century. Then we will have a basic tempo in which it moves, at which we have to be able to do triple tonguing. So this is our speed of reference for what we have to be able to achieve in our technical study when we take triple tonguing or double tonguing as a standalone discipline. So here come a few points we have to take care about. First of all, we have to take care of having the so-called K syllable. So composed or double or triple tonguing usually are regarded as a combination of T and K. T, K, I rather like to think of it as a kind of tonguing, because that suggests me to get air through it rather than attaching a particular vowel to it. And as you can already see, my top priority is to take care of what happens after pronouncing the consonant in question. So it's not about the T or the K itself, but about how well I can get the air through the tube after pronouncing the consonant. And this can be practiced separately for the T and the K. For the T, we already had the single tonguing chapter, and for the K, we do exactly the same. So first of all, to get a feeling about how hard the pronunciation of our K, which in some languages corresponds to a K, like Spanish for casa, or it can very often be a softer G or even a L, which doesn't close the airflow completely. So independently from what we pronounce, we have to take care of what comes after. And after, we want the best sound we can have. So we start from a long note. This is all K. Once again, I'm not going to do the T's because he already took care of that chapter, so we don't do redundant material. So the next step will be combining the two and trying to make them equally strong. So T, K, T, K. If I want to try and avoid noise after the pronunciation of the vowel, I have to make sure that the air package that follows the pronunciation of this consonant is immediately of the width of a long note. I imagine a piece of a long note. It's like if a long note is a stripe, this, I cut out little stripes of that long note, and at the beginning of each stripe I can either place a T or a K, but for the beauty of the product, what's more important is what comes after the pronunciation of the syllable. So once I have taken care of this, and of course the methods like Urban, I learned in our Urban. So the chapters for double and triple in Urban are very well made, very complete, very long, very exhaustive. So you definitely have enough material for that. And the way you do it is you take exercise number 1, and you will see there is a range of speeds from 2, and you take the lowest speed of the easiest exercise, and you just try to work your way through that. Urban placed the triple chapter before the double chapter because the triple, being asymmetrical, you have 2 T's and 1 K, is supposedly more tricky than regular double, which is 1 and 1. So let's do triple slowly. I can have my metronome with me to mark down the speed I achieve, and my goal once again is to get the K as close as possible to the T. When listeners can no longer recognize the difference between the T and the K pronunciation, I probably did a good job. So from then on, I start speeding it up, and always taking care of marking the metronome speed at which I can play each exercise perfectly. So the first exercises are something like this. And so on. So the first couple exercises are on one single note. Then we have no changes. First of all, we have isolated triplets from quarter notes. Then we have the note change within the triplet. My suggestion is you do not do it at a higher speed than what allows you to play it very evenly. So be very honest with yourself. It's not about doing it as fast as possible, not about doing it as soon as possible, but doing it as good as possible. So your metronome will be your best teacher. If your metronome proves you that you're not able to do it yet at the speed that you would like to do, you just turn it down to a slower speed until you find the speed on which you can currently play each exercise. Again, you try to go from the minimum speed, which is rather slow in Urban, to the maximum speed, which is very fast. and all intermediate speeds, of course, is not. I think it's good to try and get rid of the thought that triple is something mysterious you either have or you don't have. Like any technical ability is something you can learn step by step. The only limit about the speed of your triple tonguing will be the speed of your single tonguing, and you also have a chapter about speed of single tonguing, which I like very much. So, of course, having two T consonants in a row, the repetition of the two T's will be subject to the limit you have in single tonguing. This is rather obvious. It's much better for double because you have the alternation all the time. So many people can double tongue faster than they can triple tongue. For example, if you take Alborada del Gracioso, you have. This is slightly slower than what's written, but it's my maximum speed. Some people manage to do it in double tonguing at the written speed, inverting taka 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 taka. I find it very fascinating to see people who can do that, and that's because usually the maximum speed of double is slightly faster than single tonguing. So as we enhance, as we raise our speed, our tongue will very likely start to be harder and less relaxed, okay? Because the faster you try to get a muscle go, the more likely it is to get tense. So, in my opinion, when I try to go faster, I have to focus more on really pronouncing not even a D and a G, but even slower. So, even softer. So, da da ga da da ga da da ga da. It's like an English T. If you say the tree, da da ga, this kind of softness. And for the G, you can imagine there's a letter in Turkish which is a G with a little thing like that on top. It's like Uludağ. The softest thing that you can imagine on the G side. So let's take double for instance. Is no longer a T and a K. It's something that already counts as tonguing because the tongue is actually active, but it lets the air flow very steadily, thus allowing me to not lose my pitch. So for most variations, I want the feeling of my airflow to be exactly as though I was playing a long note. Okay? So we have countless examples, but the way I try to combine it with the finger work, which is the next big step, and Arben rightfully first of all makes you play the same note all the time, and later starts combining it with both scales and arpeggios. So you have things like this. You can first practice only the finger part, which means you played legato. And of course you already supposedly did the tongue work, so you try to combine them slowly, and the softer your tongue, the softer the hardness of your tongue is, the easier it will be to combine it. If you tongue very hard, the synchronizing with the fingers will be very difficult. If I do, I play short notes, which means I have less possibilities to align the note and the existence of the note and the finger work. If I tongue softer, means I have more time per note to place my finger correctly. You can modulate the speed. I'm of course doing it a little bit in a fast forward mode, but the idea is to play each exercise at the speed you can currently play, and then try to beat your previous record every time you do it again, and see if over time you can improve things like that. The body has a fantastic mechanical memory, which means if you teach it certain abilities correctly, such as both finger work and coordination, it will probably not leave you alone when it really matters. So it has a surprising memory. It happened to me that I forgot the notes and my body just kept on playing them because apparently I practiced them well. The famous variations, if you take Carnival of Venice, you have this. I can bring it down to a speed where it becomes a melodic exercise and then work my way up from there. If I try to go fast too soon, I will never manage to combine both fingers and tongue. So what I want to let you know is that you have the freedom at all times while practicing to go in slow motion. And just like in sports, you can have the super slow motion videos have no limit about how slow they happen. Subject also to technical limits like frames per second, but that's another story. You can slow down enormously anything you do in music. So find the speed at which you can make it happen at a very high level. So. And if you practice it well at every speed, you can very likely do this kind of shifts in speed and maintain the coordination with the fingering. Another advantage of tonguing very softly to let your airstream flow more steadily is that it won't be as tiring as when you overdo the hardness of your pronunciation. Think of Honegger's Intrada. I'm holding the wrong trumpet in my hand, so I will play it one tone below, but basically it's the same thing on anything. You can practice it this way. You make a very beautiful legato melody out of it, first of all. And then, of course, you don't play it faster. You don't play the entire piece faster than what you are able to do currently on your triple tonguing, even on a single note. So you check your maximum speed. Let's say it's like this. So. So there is one more aspect I would like to talk to you about, and it's the fact that leaving the middle register, so the comfortable register, both going up and going down, it will be more difficult to maintain a correct tonguing. When I go down, if I interrupt my airflow by doing too much tongue movement, probably I will open my embouchure too much and have tone production problems. So it will sound like this. So I'm basically forced to stay very soft on my tonguing. Personally, I find myself doing something like la la ga la la ga la la ga, almost an L with a very steep tongue, trying not to, because I have a lot of space in my mouth for the low register, so I cannot allow my tongue to be too high. This is why I have it like this, and as I go up, it goes a bit more like that. There is one Shostakovich symphony. This is one of the iconic things for at least one triplet in the low register, and I don't feel like I'm a very significant
Trombone First Aid.
He's here. This is one thing. And the other thing is, as we go higher, we have the opposite problem, that going in the high register, most players will form an arch with their tongue to reduce the space in the mouth, which means the airstream will be accelerated. So if I do, I can go up and down by just moving the position of the tongue in my mouth. This is a very common thing in the trumpet world. I don't think I'm the only one who does that. But it also gives us the problem that if I have to combine it with tonguing, very likely my tongue will be too close to the palate. It will, and also get the risk to not letting enough air flow through, which is so crucial to actually be able to play a high register shot. I cannot keep it up. So my task is to try and find a way to force my tongue to stay extra soft while I go up. So the further I go up, the softer my tongue has to become or remain. And this means I can still try to blow my airspeed. It doesn't make it less tiring. Of course, doing multiple tonguing in the high register is very tiring because the throat will stay very open. When you do beautiful, steady and relaxed multiple tonguing, your throat will be very open. If your throat is open, the impact on your embouchure will necessarily be bigger than if you close and you make a little sound in the high register. So things are a bit coupled together. But once again, let's sum it up like this. When we leave the middle register in both directions, we have to do an extra effort on keeping our pronunciation extra soft and like if the tongue was floating in the wind. Same thing applies to extreme dynamics. If I play mezzo forte, it's much easier to keep my tonguing under control than if I do it in a very soft dynamic. I will have this if I don't do it properly. So. The funny thing about multiple tonguing is that even though I don't overdo or overpronounce the syllables with the tongue, clarity doesn't come from that, but it will come from having even beautiful notes that are all centered and all recognizable as a series of notes. That makes sense?
I have to thank you, Giuliano, very much, because this lesson was really interesting also for me. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience. Is wide repertoire and knowledge about the trumpet and brass in general. So thank you again very much. I liked that you share some of my basic ideas, which I tried to explain in my previous videos. Just it's important also for all of us to hear in different terms, in different way of telling. So I think the basic like continuity of airstream, being able to have a homogeneous register quality and taking into account the quality of our airstream and sound, it's at the base of any kind of technical aspect. Then you need to practice slowly at the beginning, otherwise you cannot care about those basic aspects. So if you rush into more difficult and faster things, then you risk to leave on your back a lot of difficult stuff, and you never solve the problems, like Giuliano just said.
When it comes to technique, I very often compare music to sports. the techniques about learning abilities in different sports are very similar. If you want to learn dribbling, you won't become Lionel Messi tomorrow. You first have to be able to move your ball in one direction and in the other direction around a plastic cone. This is lesson number one, and you will do it a million times before you're allowed to add another cone. So it's good news and bad news in the same time. The good news is, yes, you can do it. The bad news is, no, in 2018, our learning process is not faster than 100 years ago. It's exactly the same, which means if you are motivated enough to take hours and hours sitting on a chair, like everyone who is good at doing it, and there is not a single exception. I just played with Sergei Nakaryakov. He is the best example of something we consider as inachievable, but he just did that, sitting on the chair, practicing for hours and hours. Rafael Mendes and many more. If you're motivated enough to do that, then you will just start today by doing that. I would like to give you one more example about very advanced triple technique when it comes in combination with phrasing. Of course, for trombone, it's not always doable because of the speed about your right arm, but it's not impossible to think about it in certain situations.
At the end of Brandt's first concert piece, we have a very fast triple section, an entire page basically, but we don't have to forget phrasing and expression. So I will show you a little step-by-step process to how to get there. This is only the phrasing, so I took away the triple and I only took care of the phrasing, of the dynamics, of the echoes and the colors. Then I can do an intermediate step, which is this. So I try to combine a slow triple tonguing speed with the phrasing I previously had. Then I add the finger changes I have on it. This is almost like the final result, except slower in tempo, and then I gradually speed it up. Of course, it would need a bit more of practicing, but what I wanted to show you is that only thanks to the fact that I have very soft tonguing, I can actually blow through the fast passages and take care of both dynamics and phrasing.
So, thank you again very much. I hope you enjoy also this episode. And Giuliano is building his own channel where he's posting videos when he was a kid. So I strongly invite you to watch his early concertos because it's very inspiring.
There is not so much to watch because it's mainly audio recordings, but they are combined with a couple pictures of when I was in my first life, which means before I got the brilliant idea to starting as an orchestral player. No, it's still brilliant because I really enjoy it. But yes, I did a lot of solo repertoire back then, so thank you, cousin. You will see why I call him cousin right here. So it's the very end of the concert piece number 1. I will show you the final result first and then how I practice it. Vaffanculo, non lo faccio.